Hi, Raina. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too. Thank you so much for making time for us this afternoon. I know how busy you are with your APAC role, and I know you've got back-to-back meetings. So I really appreciate you taking the time to share some real-life issues that we face in the world of salespeople in this day and age.
Yeah, no, I actually, my background, Raina, is originally I worked in industry. I started in the oil and gas industry many years ago, and moved probably the last 10 or 15 years. I went into the management consulting space, and it's only fairly recently that I've officially been labelled with the title of a sales and marketing professional. But I think throughout my entire career, the thing that's really driven me is that interaction with clients. I love that the prospect of making new relationships with people and solving their problems, and that's what really drives me. My current role is with PowerAdvocate, and we're a data analytics firm, and we provide data solutions and do data analytics work for mainly the energy and natural resources, big end of town. And it's really exciting. We've gone from zero to significant sales pipeline in the year and a bit over a year that I've been working in this space for PowerAdvocate. So we've grown rapidly. I've brought in new team members into my team, and we're seeing some really positive reception from our clientele. So that's what keeps me going. Gets me up in the morning, that's for sure.
The purpose of me bringing Stuart on today, I mean, we've got a relationship over, I think, numerous years, Stuart being in the sales leadership space. We've always had some really interesting conversations, and quite recently we're talking about the trials of having kids, and Stuart having 7 and 9 and 11-year-old himself. It's quite interesting to be in a sales role, a high-pressured sales role. There's Zoom fatigue and all sorts of things, and then you've got homeschooling. So that's a new piece there. Stuart, I mean, you've shared some great insights on what to do and what not to do. Lockdown in the and homeschooling in the lives of a sales professional / sales leader. I mean, I'd love to get your insight, because this is such a real life issue, and I think just getting some tips there would be great.
Yeah, Raina, no, thanks. And I'm sure you experience the same things with your family situation, but it's definitely a new experience for many of us, having to be in a lockdown situation for a lot of the east coast of Australia, and just dealing with the daily stresses of your current roles and jobs in the sales environment, plus having the added pressure of for some of us it's home tutoring with our kids, plus the daily grind of just having to put food on the table for your family. So yeah, it's definitely the intensity for many is a lot different to before. It's to some degree it's a lot easier to head off to work, wave goodbye, and drop the kids off at school.
I'm with you. I completely agree. So what do you suggest? I mean, what are you doing? I mean, it's great to get, I like these authentic conversations, because I could get a life coach talking about this, but we're all going through this day in, day out, right? So from your experience, what has worked? I mean, 3 things that has worked and 3 things that don't. So what are your tips to our following?
Yeah, look, and I would absolutely never prescribe myself as any kind of scientific expert on the topic. Every day is a challenge for me, just like any other parent. But I think a couple of things that I've noticed with this current COVID situation is those stresses that normally sort of don't bubble up to the surface, with the added pressures, having to wear masks around as soon as you walk out the front gate, you've got children inside your house screaming, and in my case, my son playing the trumpet whilst I'm having client calls this morning. The stresses of just your daily supermarket or pharmacy shop. That's actually quite a stressful situation now. But whereas previously, you didn't even think twice. So some of the things that I've been reading up on that I'm applying in my current home life and work life. Just doing things like not sweating the small stuff. Mm-hmm. So when my children are making their breakfast in the morning, like many others, their breakfast ends up from one end of the kitchen to the other, and they're not the first ones to clean up after themselves. So mum and dad, in between work calls, often find themselves with a disastrous mess. But I think it's important to put it in context. What is it really a life-threatening situation? Is it really going to be impacting the rest of your day, or can you just let it go and carry on life as normal without introducing that added degree of stress? So I think that's the first thing that I'm thinking about. Secondly, I was reading up on other methods to sort of reconnect with your family. One of the things that I notice is I've got a little office. Luckily, I've got a very small but very handy little office that I can close the door to, and I can really focus on my client and my sales work. Many don't have that situation. But one thing that's really important is to reconnect with your family as soon as you walk out that door or out off the kitchen table. And I don't know if you've come across the concept of the 20-second hugs, but that's one thing we're instituting in our household. So a 20-second hug, there's scientific studies now that have indicated that 20 seconds is all you need to reconnect with your loved ones. It has added benefits of releasing oxytocin, lowering blood pressure, reducing those stress hormones. That means that, but also you're reconnecting the relationships with your partner and your children that can sometimes get a little bit tenuous during this intensive lockdown period. So that's another thing that we're doing. I don't know if it's going to help anyone else, but I'm certainly finding that there's a lot of benefits from that. And then probably the third thing that has worked for me, and that it actually came out of I think it was a TED talk by a woman called Darria Long, who's an emergency ER doctor in the States. And she has this concept of changing from crazy mode to ready mode. Something that you might be interested in checking out, that TED talk. But she was really, really proactive about how she approaches things. She talks about relentlessly triaging. In other words, when a request or a demand comes upon you, taking a second to just really think about whether it's a life-threatening situation or a really high priority issue, or whether it can be let go of, and relating it back to my cereal strewn throughout the kitchen by my children. That's another situation where I just have to temper my natural aspiration to have my house spick and span, and really think about whether or not it's worthwhile chasing after. But she also talks about planning. She talks about that ready mode, and where by planning out your week's worth of meals on the weekend, it just takes that added burden off you when you're, at 5 p.m. you've had all your sales calls on Zoom or whatever it is.
Yep. And then you've got to make dinner.
That intensity. Exactly right. So just a couple of suggestions, and by all means take them as with a grain of salt. But I've found that really those three initiatives have certainly helped me work my way through the minefield that is lockdown here in Melbourne.